All right, Rust 1.49.0. 64-bit ARM reaches Tier 1. Tier 1 is the highest support guarantee, so basically Rust has full support for ARM. That's pretty cool. macOS and Windows. Oh, ARM, macOS, and Windows? So wait a second. What does this mean? 64-bit ARM macOS. So there's a macOS version that runs on ARM, and then there's a Windows version that runs on ARM, and the support for that one is still mixed. 3 new stable functions. Select nth unstable. Select nth unstable by. These look boring. What does it do? Oh, okay. So you can put in the number there and it'll do the meeting. What does it have? What does it have unstable there? I think an unstable sort is what they're talking about. Basically, a stable sort will make sure that if 2 items are equal, they'll be in the same order each time. An unstable sort doesn't. Maybe it has some random component to it that makes it so that it doesn't always put those 2 components in the same order as they originally were or whatever. WebAssembly Studio. Okay, so we're in WebAssembly Studio. I can create an empty C project, an empty Rust project, empty WebAssembly script project, an empty WAP project. Okay, hello world in C. What is assembly script? Oh, it compiles TypeScript to WebAssembly using binary yen. Assembly script. I'd never heard of this. A language made for WebAssembly, designed for WebAssembly. Assembly script targets WebAssembly's feature set specifically, giving developers low-level control of their code. I just want to see some examples. Wow, so you can compile something like this to WebAssembly. That's pretty crazy. I wonder how that compares to Rust, because it's not like you have the same. You're not working directly with data in TypeScript either. You're not directly working with bytes and bits, not as closely anyway as Rust. So let's look at the Hello World Rust project. Oh, we forgot Gulp. Gulp is an oldie and not a goodie. Oh, run app is greet. It runs the greet function from the WASM. This is so weird because it's destructuring the greet here, but then it calls down here to load in the WASM file. So we have this build script. So it calls that build script. It gets the Rust file. Await service.compile file with binding. Service is from wasm/studio utils. Oh, it is. So you could download this and run it locally, probably. Although it has no documentation. So that's a little weird. Okay, let's try running this because I think I understand what it does. They're calling that greet function, which sends out a format. It says format bang in Rust, and then it calls this alert function. The alert function is identified as an external function. So it should be calling an alert if we run this. So let's hit run, but nothing happened. So what do I do? Build and run? Oh, there we go. Hello world. Okay, so it worked. It called the alert function. So yeah, that's a pretty easy way to use Rust, I guess. But it still seems like you might want to have this stuff locally just because, sure, you're using WASM and that's difficult, but I don't know if you want to use a web IDE. Let's see what people online are saying. Well, not at WASM. WASM makes a ton of sense in production. I hope WASM gets serious attention. So all these comments are, except for the top one, which is an accessibility issue, are all talking just about WASM. And then there's somebody commenting on Gulp. They're saying, Gulp gives me flashbacks to the horrors of my past exposure as an inexperienced web dev. And I have to agree. Gulp is not that sexy. Elements of statistical learning, PDF. Well, this is going to be dense. Data mining, inference, and prediction. Well, it is an open textbook, which is kind of cool. Let's take a look at the table of contents here. See if this is. Here is our chapters. So we've got an introduction, overview of supervised learning, linear methods for regression, linear methods for classification. That's a pretty good machine learning course. That actually matches the curriculum of my machine learning course. Yeah, look at that. It's dense. This is a lot of material. 764 pages, so it's a thick book. It's pretty terse. It would be hard to learn something for the first time through elements of statistical learning, although it's great for having all the details and derivations. It's just a very technical book. And though it's complete, it's also quite inaccessible. It says that they have a video series for the same book. So that's kind of cool. Let's check out the video series. Well, it seems informal. That's nice. It seems like they're going through the book pretty like Like it seems like they're going through the book in kind of an informal and helpful way. The video series seems approachable. So if you're taking a look at the book, maybe take a look at the video series. The theory of interstellar trade. Abstract. This paper extends the interplanetary trade theory to an interstellar setting. It is chiefly concerned with the following question. How should interest charges on goods in transit be computed when the goods travel at close to the speed of light? This is a problem because the time taken in transit will appear less to the observer traveling with the goods than to a stationary observer. A solution is derived from economic theory, and two useless but true theorems are proved. Okay, interesting. Two useless but true theorems are proved. Is it too much to suggest that current work might prove as influential in this development as the work of Adam Smith in the initial settlement of Massachusetts and Virginia? So Adam Smith was an influential economics writer. I believe he wrote The Wealth of Nations. That's a pretty big assumption to make, since nobody can do that. All right. Not sure how much. Trading space vessels move at high velocities. We can no longer have an unambiguous measure of the time taken in transit. The time taken by the spacecraft to make a round trip will appear less to an observer on the craft than to one remaining on Earth. Since an interstellar voyage is an investment project which must have a positive present value, there's obviously a problem in deciding which transit time to use in the present value calculation. Consider trade between two planets, Earth and Trantor. Oh, an electromagnetic signal. Okay, so this is the speed of light. Then this is a spaceship moving at a fraction of the speed of light. And then this is an acceleration deceleration pattern. I think this is a little bit silly. Okay, so this is a joke. You can't take it too seriously. I think it's more of like a fun abstract thought exercise, and that's why some of the things were so outrageous. So at least somebody else was sort of tricked into taking it seriously. PyPy project looking for sponsorship to add support to Apple Silicon. Wait, but it's not that expensive, right? 10 gigs of disk space, a few hours per CPU run. It should fit in 8 gigs of RAM. 5 years of lightweight extra maintenance. Oh, interesting. And he's saying reach out to us like kind of manually. Yeah, it's surprising they don't just have a link. What is life? 2019. So this guy is breaking down the what is life question into very technical terms with molecular biology. Technical definition on life. Wow. Oof. It's good. Linux hardening guide. Linux is not a secure operating system. There's some interesting stuff in here. Like, wow, differences as small as a few milliseconds are sufficient for de-anonymizing users. Wow, there are a lot of things to harden a system. The Big Little Guide to Message Queues. A guide to fundamental concepts that underlie message queues and how they apply to popular queuing systems available today. Message queues are now fairly prevalent. There are so many of them showing up so fast you'd think there were rabbits with an unlimited supply of celery, resulting in a Kafka-esque situation where making a decision is like trying to catch a stream in your hands. If only there were a few simple services that could help with publishing and subscribing, it would be so much easier to make a zero-effort choice. What are message queues? What's their history? Why are they useful? And what mental models to use? Message queues are a way to transfer information between two systems. Okay, so there's 3 different kind of delivery guarantees that you can get. At least once, at most once, or exactly once. So at least once is the most common delivery mechanism. If I have a message, I will read it to you and keep doing so until you acknowledge it, until you tell me to stop. At most once, pretty rare, but it's used when duplication is horribly explosive. So we don't want to have that message read twice. Exactly once. The holy grail of messaging and also the fountain of snake oil. It implies that every message is guaranteed to be delivered and processed exactly once, no more, no less. Everyone who builds or uses distributed systems has a point in their lives where they think, how hard can this be? And they either 1, learn why it's impossible, figure out idempotency, or use at least once. Or 2, they try to build a half-assed exactly one system and sell it for lots of money for those who haven't figured out one yet. So why is it impossible? Senders and receivers are imperfect. Networks are imperfect. Okay? Right, they're proving it's impossible. I trust you. I took a distributed systems class. I know enough to know some things are very hard. Let's take a look at the technologies. So AWS, SNS, and SQS. I think these are pretty popular. So the SQS is a pure message queue, allows you to create a queue, send a message, and receive a message. Google provides a pub sub service as part of their cloud platform to handle any message queues and topics in an integrated service. Redis has a relatively new streams feature that works great for message queues. It works by creating topics on the fly and adding messages to them with the xadd command. Reading the messages directly off the topic is possible with xread, so each subscriber can maintain its own state. Kafka, a popular message broker that works on the concepts of producers and publishing messages called events to topics. I think Kafka scales up quite a bit. RabbitMQ. I think RabbitMQ is almost like the standard choice. I'm kind of surprised it's at the bottom. Okay, a lot of these are pretty low. Libre Photos, a self-hosted Google Photos alternative. Looks good. It looks like it has all the features of Google Photos. It looks very, very similar. It's a self-hosted Google Photos clone with a slight focus on cool graphs. Oh, it uses face recognition, object detection. So that's how they're doing the automatic tagging. It's pretty cool. You can run your own Google Photos. And shamelessness as a strategy. Cool. Okay, shamelessness as a strategy. I've enjoyed playing a game called Avalon recently. I won't go too far into the rules, but it's a hidden role game in the vein of Secret Hitler or Werewolf, where one team is good, trying to uncover who among them is evil before the evil team wins. One of the characters you can play is Merlin. Merlin knows who the evil players are, but can't reveal what he knows, because the evil team can kill Merlin and win the game. So Merlin relies on another character, Percival, to be his decoy. He secretly watches Merlin's actions throughout the game and amplifies those signals to the rest of the group. The typical strategy for Percival is to attract attention away from Merlin and towards himself, but another riskier strategy for Merlin to play as though he is Percival. In this case, Merlin displays what he knows so shamelessly that he throws everyone off. The evil team, believing no Merlin would be stupid enough to put himself out there like that, figures he must be Percival and writes him off. The Merlin as Percival strategy is bold because it blatantly defies our expectations about how the game is won. To pull it off, Merlin must create confusion around his actions. He needs the other players to feel unsure about whether he's being incredibly stupid or incredibly smart. The shameless approach is becoming a dominant strategy today. It was first popularized by the modern canon by Paris Hilton, who played the dumb blonde Harris stereotype so smoothly that everyone assumed she was as stupid as she seemed. Paris didn't play by the obvious rules for famous people. She was widely derided by both media and her peers as at best a train wreck and at worst a self-serving aggradizer. People were outrageous, but I'm not sure. Like, even if you go back, people have been outrageous for attention. For a long time. So I'm not totally sure that this is that new of a phenomenon. So the author's argument is that shamelessness is kind of like a rising strategy today, in that it's used to make it seem like you're incredibly smart or incredibly dumb and pull a lot of attention on you. And they're saying it's effective, and it's going to be effective in politics in the future. And part of it is because of the people being able to easily exit and leave online communities. I don't think I agree with this piece. I don't think shamelessness is new, and so shame is no longer a meaningful self-regulating mechanism in daily life. You're left with sort of a nihilistic Manichean. I don't know what this is. Manichean? They keep using the word Manichean. Shame is good. It's the glue of civilization. I don't know. It's just an abstract way to talk about politics. AWS Lambda Terraform Cookbook with working examples. The objective of this tutorial is to understand AWS Lambda in depth beyond executing functions using Terraform. This looks really useful. It's really dense, but it looks useful because if Lambda is actually kind of a complicated platform, and you can use an abstraction like Vercel to make it easier for you. But if you actually want to understand it, use Terraform. Actually handle roles and have complex security, you would definitely want something like this. So I'm going to give it a start. I think it's definitely worth looking at if I end up setting something like that up. But I use Lambda through Vercel, so not super applicable to me. Let's see what people say. I do get the reasoning, but it's funny we're using an infrastructure management tool to manage the thing that was supposed to relieve you from the burden of infrastructure management. That is funny. Firefox not planning on supporting PWA. Okay, so there's a lot of discussion from people about whether or not Firefox should do it. I'm assuming that they decide at the end that that they don't want to do it. Let's see. I do not understand how we got to such a misuse of PWA in this context on both sides of the conversation. Progressive web apps are not a standard. It's an idea that an application presented through a web browser can use additional features provided by the browser if available. The term is based on the concept of progressive enhancement. Yeah, I mean, if PWA isn't a standard, you can't implement PWA, but you can certainly implement a subset of the features. If people start installing web apps, hopefully Firefox would get on board and allow people to install web apps that run under the hood with Firefox. I'm not sure. Wheat growth was tested on the Russian space station. Everything grew well, but then, upon harvest in space, all inflorescence of the flight-grown plants were sterile. It turns out accumulated ethylene gas, a plant hormone, prevented proper seed formation, so there were no seeds. Oh, mold does very well in space. Impossible to kill with UV light. Oh my gosh. Mealworms. They gotta eat mealworms? Oh my gosh. Cool, well that is it. This is the first time I've done this, but that's the concept. I figure somebody on the Science and Technology channel should do it. I didn't stream it today because I thought it would be short, but it ended up being pretty long. So that's it for now. Bye.